Indigenous peoples of the Americas, prior to European colonization, had respected ceremonial and social roles for homosexual and bisexual individuals. In many contemporary Native American and First Nations communities, these roles still exist. In addition, LGBT individuals have been present throughout the history of the United States, with gay men having served the Union Army during the Civil War. Homosexual identity found its social foothold in the U.S. during the 19th century, with an idealized conception of the wholesome and loving male friendship. Groups in the early 20th century, such as Henry Gerber's Society for Human Rights in Chicago, worked in hiding to avoid persecution, yet advanced the rights of homosexuals. During the Roaring Twenties, homosexuals received a level of acceptance in the U.S. that was not seen again until the 70s. In the 30s, Victorian values and mores, ridiculed during the 20s, resurged amongst America's nuclear families. World War II changed American society. Normalcy was turned on its head as many facets of life changed. For many gays fighting in the war, it was the first time meeting other gays. They grasped being gay was integral to their sense of self, and they were not alone. Returning stateside after the war, gays were not tolerated in much of the U.S. Many gays remained in the port cities where they were discharged. The semi-tolerance of the World War II years was short-lived. Society's goal was to return to normalcy, with emphasis on conservatism. During the McCarthy era, homosexuality became an explosive political topic. The Lavender Scare barred suspected, or rumored, homosexuals from federal and military employment. This campaign prompted the homophile movement, and groups organizing. Labor activist Harry Hay established the Mattachine Society in 1950. It was one of the earliest LGBT organizations in the U.S. In 1955, San Francisco, Del Martin and Phyllis Leone founded the Daughters of Bilitis. This was the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the U.S. In 1969, a discriminatory police raid on the Stonewall Inn, in New York City, started a riot lasting for several days. This galvanized the gay activist communities to unite in a fight for LGBT rights in America. The Stonewall National Monument is the first U.S. national monument dedicated to LGBT rights in history. President Barack Obama officially designated the monument on June 24, 2016.
Back in 1969, as a turbulent decade was winding down, the Stonewall Inn was a popular gathering place for New York City's LGBT community. At the time, being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender was considered obscene, illegal, even a mental illness. One night, police raided the bar and started arresting folks. Raids like these were nothing new, but this time the patrons had had enough, so they stood up and spoke out. The riots became protests. The protests became a movement. The movement ultimately became an integral part of America. So this week, I'm designating the Stonewall National Monument as the newest addition to America's national park system. Stonewall will be our first national monument to tell the story of the struggle for LGBT rights. I believe our national park should reflect the full story of our country, the richness and diversity and uniquely American spirit that has always defined us, that we are stronger together, that out of many, we are one.
Having been at Stonewall, being back here, I think I have a kind of a survivor's guilt, I could call it, because like on the Stonewall picture of Fred McDowell, I'm probably the only one still alive. Most of them never lived to get to be like 24 or 25 years old. Back then, I didn't think about it being difficult. You just had to get through it. Most gay people back then, if they had any kind of a job, they were scared to death of even being found out to be gay. We had nothing, so we had nothing to lose. It's like the Bob Dylan song where he says, when you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose.
I remember the late 1960s. Gay people were victims on a culture that had no respect, no tolerance.
We were being brutalized. We were being murdered. We were being ostracized in a sense. Stonewall was a safe haven for LGBT people.
The Stonewall riots in 1969, I think, obviously it was a very pivotal point in our history. It was when we all stood up and a trans woman of color said enough is enough, and it started a movement. And it started a movement that said, we're not less than you, we are your equals. When you think about the riots, you think about unity. And that unity is something that we've never lost.
Today, we have gay and lesbian elected officials. We see cultural changes in television and movies. President Obama has been the most proactive president for LGBT people in America. There is no second place.
President Obama, I mean, in his second term inauguration speech, actually mentioned Stonewall. That never happened before. Stonewall is now historically given like a definitive place through a president of the United States.
We, the people, declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal, is the star that guides us still. Just as it guided our forebears through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall, just as it guided all those men and women, sung and unsung, who left footprints along this great mall, to hear a preacher say that we cannot walk alone, to hear a king proclaim that our individual freedom is inextricably bound to the freedom of every soul on earth.
For the 1978 San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Parade, pro-LGBT politician Harvey Milk enrolled Vietnam vet Gilbert Baker to create a symbol identifying the gay community. Inspired by the wonder of nature, Baker crafted an 8-stripe flag with specific meaning for each of the colors. Less than 6 months later, a former San Francisco city supervisor and political nemesis assassinated Milk and Mayor Moscone. Listen to the final words of 48-year-old Harvey Milk.
This is to be played only in the event of my death by assassination. I fully realize that a person who stands for what I stand for, an activist, gay activist, becomes the target or the potential target for somebody who is insecure, terrified, afraid, or very disturbed themselves. And knowing that I could be assassinated at any moment or any time, I feel it's important that some people know my thoughts. I stood for more than just a candidate. I have never considered myself a candidate. I have always considered myself part of a movement, part of a candidacy. I wish I had time to explain everything I did. Almost everything was done in the eyes of the gay movement.
After Milk's assassination, demand for the rainbow flag significantly increased. To meet demand, Paramount Flag Company sold the flag using 7 stock color rainbow fabric stripes. In 1979, the flag saw a symmetrical revision to an even number of stripes, combining turquoise and indigo to a royal blue. In 1994, Baker moved to New York City and created a mile-long rainbow flag, for the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots. With time, the rainbow flag has become an international symbol, as an outward sign of LGBTQ+ identity and support. Numerous and distinct designs have been created for self-identification to signify unity, pride, shared values, and allegiance to one another. In the early 21st century, social policies advancing the LGBTQ+ community continue to flourish. In 2017, President Barack Obama wrote these words, giving homage to Stonewall. The Stonewall uprising is considered by many to be the catalyst that launched the modern LGBT civil rights movement. From this place and time, building on the work of many before the nation started the march, not yet finished, toward securing equality and respect for LGBT people. The rainbow flag has seen triumphs and tragedies, and continues to fly over many communities, festivals, and parades. New and innovative themes and designs of flags celebrate human diversity, sexuality, and gender equality. The city of Philadelphia adopted a revised version of the flag in 2017, adding black and brown stripes to the top of the standard 6-color flag, to highlight black and brown LGBTQIA members within the city's community. In 2018, the Love Fest Carnival of São Paulo presented a version of the LGBTQ flag, with a white stripe in the middle, to represent human diversity in religion, gender, sexuality, ethnicities, and peace and union, among all. Also in 2018, designer Daniel Quasar introduced a pride flag, with a chevron bringing to the forefront marginalized people of color, trans individuals, and those living with, and lost to, HIV or AIDS. To commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, graphic artist and social activist, KRTengesdal of North Dakota, designed a Stonewall50 inclusion flag. He began with the internationally accepted 6-stripe rainbow flag. In the upper section of the flag, he placed a circle, as the rising sun. He chose the circle shape to represent the earth and inclusion. At the base of the circle, he added 3 stripes, black, brown, and gray, to represent the brilliant spectrum of skin colors and races. In the top half of the circle, he added 3 stripes, light blue, pink, and white, to represent the array of gender identities. In this inclusion flag, the circle of earth encompasses people, of all colors, gender identities, abilities, and beliefs. On a rainbow field, which stands for the greater LGBTQ+ community, their diversity, and their allies. Here are examples, illustrating the versatility of the Stonewall50 inclusion flag design, as stylized into other shapes and symbols. Kevin comments, overall, in time, it is my hope this Stonewall50 inclusion flag will celebrate peace and unity, equality and respect, among all of humanity.